Hello, welcome to Two Bound Books. My name is Amber.
And my name is Shaylee. We are your co-hosts. We are so excited you're joining us today. This is an exciting moment for us. It's been a long time coming to launch this podcast. If you've been following us on social media, you know why. Amber, let's tell them a little bit about ourselves today and what brought us to Two Bound Books. And since this is a podcast about books, why don't you start us off by letting us know what was your breakout book and what age did you start reading?
I was a very early reader. I absolutely have always just probably dove headfirst into reading 24/7 as long as I could. I was the kid with the flashlight, like late at night reading.
To your parents' dismay.
To much of my parents' dismay, because I was also up at like 4 a.m. So I needed very little sleep as a child, which was always great, especially when you're a reader, because you can always self-entertain on that one. But Little House on the Prairie, definitely finished that by like second grade, 100%. That's one of my breakout books. Couldn't stop reading after that point. Did I understand it all? No. But definitely could read it. I had a higher reading limit, or like reading... do you know what I'm trying to say? We had AR.
Yeah, like you were a higher grade level than you actually were.
Yes. So I was always capable of reading at a higher level, but my comprehension wasn't necessarily like 100% with it because I didn't understand the words that went with it.
That was me too.
Yeah. So Little House on the Prairie, Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins.
You are showing your millennial.
I definitely am. The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale.
I don't know that one, but I've heard you rave about it, so I think I'll need to read that one.
Oh, I've read it like 5 times. It's so good. Among the Hidden, it's a whole series by Margaret Peterson Haddix, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then The Ranger's Apprentice by John Flanagan. And all of those are my breakout books at different points in my life.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Please indulge.
Long list.
What are your breakout books?
Okay, so here's the funny thing. When we first started talking about this, I was like, oh, I think I started reading in middle school, early high school. But then you triggered my memory, and I was totally a Junie B. Jones kid and Beezus and Ramona kid.
Beverly Cleary.
Yep. So I read all of those books when I was younger. And I do remember going to the library. I loved the book fairs. Going to the book fairs as a kid. I don't even know if they have those anymore.
They do. They do.
Good.
I promise you.
Okay, good. And then as I got older, my turn to let my millennial show, I was a Twilight kid. I know. I was a big fan of Stephanie Meyer and all the Twilight books.
Yeah.
And that's what got me launched into fantasy, actually. And then from there, it was a downward spiral.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's 100% real. Who was your favorite author that you were most drawn to?
I would say I had 2, and one was Jodi Picoult and one was Cassandra Clare.
Ooh, all right. I have many thoughts.
We'll get into it a little bit more. Who were your favorite authors?
Cornelia Funk. She wrote the Inkheart series, or trilogy, I should say. Christopher Poloni. He did Aragon. Shannon Hale, she has quite a few on there. Margaret Peterson Haddix is on there as well. And then John Flanagan. I am a go-to on all of those. Notice how I didn't say Stephanie Meyer.
I feel that dig. So we have an interesting story of how we decided to start this podcast. And it was very out of the blue. And I was a little reluctant at first just because of the time commitment. But do you want to tell everyone why and how we started this?
Sure. So quite a few months ago, I approached, Shaylee and I were talking, and it was one of those things it came up out of the blue. And we were kind of like dancing around like what kind of books do you like to read? And we didn't necessarily know what the other liked to read. And then we found a lot of similarities with what we like to read. And it really kind of drew us closer together on that front.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So it was hilarious once I kind of had this mental plot twist of okay, I'm getting into ARC reading, which is you get advanced reader copies of books, and then you get to reading them. And then I would tell Shaylee about them, and I'd be like, Shaylee, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. It's so good. And she wouldn't.
I was going down my TBR.
Okay, that's fair. And when you're a reader, as you very well know, your TBR grows with every book that you look at, which is also hard because we definitely read books by or judge books by the cover.
Yeah, we do.
And so, in order for me to get Shaylee to read some of the books that I was super interested in, I was like, hey, Shaylee, and this was on a Sunday. I text her. I'm like, hey, Shaylee, I have a kind of an out there idea. I don't know if you'd be up for it. And she's like, what's that? And I was like, we should start a podcast. And she's like, on what? And I was like, books.
And then she drew me in, and here we are today.
And then by Monday, we had a whole plan.
Yeah, and our name picked out, and the color scheme we wanted, and the type of logo we wanted. It was a whole process that happened in a matter of 24 hours.
Oh, it was highly entertaining and very much gave us whiplash.
So, on the topic of books and art reading, the genres that we are drawn to, we have the same genre choices usually.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Fantasy.
Romance.
Romantasy.
Yep. Those are our favorites. We try to stick under the young adult umbrella for those genres, but we have found some awesome books. We've even gotten some awesome ones, as you can see on our bookshelf behind us, that we are really looking forward to sharing with everyone on the podcast as we keep going through.
Most definitely. Now, here's my question, because I mentioned it earlier. Are you a rereader?
No. Okay, but it's funny because I'll watch TV shows on repeat. Like my favorite TV show series, Vampire Diaries, Gossip Girl, all of the classic millennial shows on repeat because I can just have them on in the background. But I don't like to reread books. But I did something recently, and you were along for this journey with me.
Yes, I was.
Cassandra Clare, I mentioned, was one of my favorite authors, and she writes the Mortal Instruments series. A lot of people may know them as like the Shadowhunters series. And I read them in high school. Phenomenal writing, great book. Decided I wanted to try them out on audiobook. Worst decision of my life. I love reading or listening to audiobooks, but these audiobooks were awful, and it made me never want to reread the books again.
So, and here's my input of this as well. So I had been handing Shaylee a whole bunch of books, and I'd been handing you book after book after book, and I was like, you have to read this one. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And then you hand me this book, and it was my first interaction of you handing me a book.
That's not true.
Okay, that is not true. It's my second interaction of you handing me a book. And I kind of questioned if we had the same interest in books based off of these audiobooks. Like, I questioned everything about books based purely off of the audiobooks.
Yeah, they weren't good. I would encourage you to try and read the books themselves at some point once your palate's cleansed a bit.
Yeah, it's going to take quite a few years. Like, I'll probably be 50 or 60 by the time I try to palate cleanse with them. And I'm not kidding you. When a book gives you the ick, you just kind of walk away.
Okay. I'm bummed because it was actually, they're good books. The audiobook just ruined them.
That's fair. 100%. I'm definitely a rereader. And I like to read either ebooks or physical books when I'm rereading. And so my go-to, if ever I need a palate cleanser or anything like that, The Goose Girl, Shannon Hale.
Okay. Is there another book that you've reread a lot?
That's my usual go-to.
Okay. So you just redo it.
Oh, yeah. My physical copy of it is so beaten up because it's traveled everywhere with me.
Oh, I'll have to see it sometime. I love seeing a good used book.
Oh, it's solid. It's so good. And I got it used too. So that makes it even better.
That works.
Buy used, people. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
So our next topic I want to touch on is what makes a book truly unforgettable for you. And I think it kind of ties into you talking about Shannon Hale here.
Oh, yeah.
And what makes that book so unforgettable for you?
It's easy to follow.
Okay.
100%. So all all of the plot from beginning to end, it's easy to follow. The character development in it, so strong.
Okay.
I love a solid, relatable character. And when your characters are like, oh, I'm a weakling, now I'm the most powerful person in the world, it makes it super unrelatable.
Okay.
And so I want to be able to go along with the emotional journey of the character.
And you want the full arc.
Oh, 100%. So, and I want to be able to go along the journey with them. I don't want it to just be like from beginning to end, like now I'm the most amazing person in the world.
Yeah. For me, I relate to the emotional side of books and how they capture you that way.
Yeah.
It's funny because I didn't grow up as a super emotional person, but in my adult years, apparently I am. And I connect to the emotions of the characters and the feeling that they bring and how they are relating with each other. And I like those relationships in general, like friendship, familiar relationships, partner relationships, all of them. And getting to live in that world with those people and
becoming a part of that world with them.
Yes. And you know what? Superpower wise, totally off topic. If I had one superpower, it would be to read people's minds. I want to be a mind reader. And so I think that that's why I like to like hear what people are thinking and feeling in these books.
Edward Cullen.
Okay. Twilight, whatever.
Mine would be invisibility.
Okay. Well, moving on from that part of it, we're going to talk literary landscape a little bit now.
Ooh.
And kind of the hot topics in the book world right now and where things have come from where they used to be, where they're going. So let's start talking about audiobooks since we've already brought those up.
So quick question for you. Is listening to an audiobook considered reading?
I used to say no.
I know you did. And now what do you say?
I still struggle with it because you're listening to it, but I get the difference in listening to an audiobook versus listening to a TV show or something. It's very different. So I will say, yes, it's reading a book.
Awesome. So there's your answer on that one. But audiobooks are actually one of the fastest growing formats of books. It is a great way to be able to multitask. I have a family and it is sheer chaos most of the time. And so for me, being able to listen to a book kind of gets me away from my current situation.
Of chaos.
Or diapers or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I have liked audiobooks because they're actually what helped me get back into reading. When I took a little break from reading, I just started reading again back in April. So it's been less than a year. I probably stopped reading for about 10 years.
Now, before we get too far into this topic, what was your reading goal this last year?
Last year, my reading goal was 45 books. And mind you, I started reading in April of last year, again, after taking about a 10-year break.
And the best part about this reading goal, by the way, is it was going to be one physical book and one audiobook or two audiobooks each month.
Yes.
Was how it was originally going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And how many books did you read last year?
I think it was around 68 books.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm super proud of you.
I set up I like to challenge myself. I have a very competitive nature. And so I didn't let myself watch any TV until I hit my reading goal.
I'm so proud.
And so that's how we got
proud.
there. It was great. It was really good. It was a good mind cleanse. And honestly, even listening to audiobooks, bringing us back around to that spot, it's a lot more cleansing to listen to an audiobook than it is to be watching TV or even listening to a TV show.
Unless it's The Mortal Instruments.
Jeez.
Not a good palate cleanse. Do not recommend.
Oh my gosh. It's good. Okay.
I'm not going to let you live it down.
I hope we have some listeners that have my back on this topic.
Let us know in the comments.
All right. So with audiobooks, what kind of sales do you expect with audiobooks for authors compared to their physical books?
That is hard to say. I know I get a lot of my audiobooks from the library, so props to Libby on that one. But I don't even know percentage-wise what that would look like. I'm guessing they'd be relatively even. And I know if you're doing something like Book of the Month, you can use your coupon or your like book token for the audiobook version if you want to do it that way.
Well, and we have the trophy readers too,
Yes.
where they're going to listen to a book or e-read it, but then go buy the physical book anyway so they can have it on their bookshelf.
I am guilty of trophy reading.
We won't tell your husband. It's okay.
He knows.
Okay. What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence in the book world?
The lovely AI question. I think AI is a great resource to be able to help people write books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about what it's going to actually do to the book market in regards to the overall writing process of books and the overall writing of books. So my largest worry is that people are going to become too reliant upon AI. And so it's going to be weeding out those books.
Takes away some of the creative process.
Oh, absolutely. I think it can definitely be an assistive guide, but I'm a millennial, you guys. Like, we had to write our papers by hand, usually with a pencil or a pen.
Number 2.
Yeah, a number 2 pencil. Ticonderoga, if you really want to make your teacher happy.
Oh my gosh, the throwbacks. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think that AI is a great tool, and I've seen it work in so many different ways, even in my day-to-day job, and the things that it can be used for, and it can be a huge tool, but it's definitely obvious when people are relying on it. Also, it's just pulling from the internet a lot of the time. So it's really easy to copy another person if you're not careful.
Absolutely. And we used to have, back in the day, it was, you could put your paper through it was like a reading log, and it would highlight everything that was copied from another source.
Oh gosh. I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh. It would highlight it yellow. And if you did not have the proper citation for it, you stole.
Oh, I don't like that.
You stole, you gone.
Well, if they had that back in the day, they have it now.
Oh, I know.
Probably more intense too.
Oh, I don't even know how they're going to be able to do it with AI.
Yeah.
It's terrifying
Ugh.
in some of the aspects of it. But I think it's a great resource.
It is a great resource. Another great resource, Book Talk.
Ooh. Book Talk is great, especially for those authors who are trying to get a breakout book. The hard part is Book Talk sometimes takes books by storm, and like it comes out of nowhere. And so
Oversaturated.
It's like, oh, absolutely. So it's like you get these super overhyped books and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to read this book. And you read it and you're like, that was really underwhelming.
Yeah.
And then you have all of these super like underwhelmed books or like under publicized books. And it's sad to see some of those ones go to the wayside, which is what I'm hoping we'll be able to do with our podcast, is be able to catch some of those
light.
And bring them to the light.
I like going into Barnes & Noble now and seeing that they have a whole table dedicated to Book Talk books, which is just weird to me.
Oh, it cracks me up.
But it's fun to go look at the trending books and like, what are all these people reading, and flip them over, read the back of it, read the prologue, get a feel for them. And I swear, this is how creepy the phones are. You go in and you see it in Barnes & Noble, and then it's showing up on your phone every 2 seconds.
Absolutely. But here's my question. On Goodreads, do you look at like reviews before you read the book?
Sometimes. I don't like to be influenced by other people.
I don't like to be influenced by other people either. However, my big thing is I'll go to the worst reviews and I'll be like, it's like when you're like looking at a business or something that like you're wanting to go into. What experiences did other people have?
Yeah.
And
but then you have to compensate by looking at the best reviews and kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah, but I want to know if it's like, if someone didn't like it because of the world building aspect, I'm going to be like, oh, awesome. Love that for me. Like, it can be a positive review for someone else.
Yeah.
Your strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. It's the same thing with book reviews.
So, okay, with book reviews though, and as an ARC reader, because you've had a little bit more experience with this than me at this point, authors are giving their books to ARC readers so that they can get as many reviews as possible, so that those people that are going to look at the reviews like you before they go choose to read a book or not, read it. But they're not hoping for any negative reviews.
Yeah.
If you read a book and you're like, oh, this just did not hit home, are you going to be a little bit more generous with your review, or are you going to be super honest?
I have had one where this has happened, and I reached out to the author because I caught a major plot point that wasn't resolved, and it kept me up at night.
Of course it did.
So I emailed the author and was like, hey, I need to know how this ends. And she goes, oh my gosh, the copy that went out wasn't the copy that it was supposed to be. It was like 3 versions ago.
Oh, it wasn't the final.
It wasn't the final. Thank goodness. So then she sent me the updated version of the book, and I was like, whoo.
Okay.
Now I know.
So you're a reach out to the author before you leave the review.
Oh, yeah. If it's a bad book, I would reach out to the author before I post a review.
Will you still post a review?
If I get resolution like I did, then yes.
But you won't leave a negative review is what you're saying.
For an author that is trying to do a breakout book, I will email the author my criticisms, but I will not put a negative review on there.
All right.
I'm not going to jeopardize someone's book career based off of my liking or disliking. If I liked the book, I'm going to rave about it, and you know that.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Miss TBR of like 800 books because of me.
Yeah, I quit adding them.
I know.
They just sit in my Facebook messages now.
I know.
But
It's a real shame. There's some good ones in there.
All right. Why don't you take us around to subscription models?
All right. So subscription models, the way that works is usually the author will have a Patreon account or some sort of subscription service, Wattpad, things like that. You have subscribers who will pay certain amount each month to be able to get advanced chapters and advanced copies of certain parts of the book.
Yeah.
And so that is taken the nation by storm in regards to the overall development of books and how books have like generated publicity.
Yeah. Do you feel like Patreon has become a huge asset for authors?
Oh, absolutely. It's a way for authors to be able to reach their audience. It's a way for podcasters to be able to reach their audience. It's a way for gamers or anyone.
And there's a lot more self-published authors today than there used to be.
There are so many self-published authors. It's very hard in regards to the direct sales portion of things because people are definitely like I want to go into Barnes & Noble and look at books. But the hard part about that is you have these self-published authors that aren't getting into places like Barnes & Noble.
Right.
And so we end up with these beautiful books, by the way. Thank you, authors who have sent us books. And some of them are absolutely phenomenal. And they're not getting the publicity that they deserve.
Right. It's also hard because as a self-published author, they're looking to earn the money for their work and stuff like that. But
they put a lot of work into it.
People are buying the physical books a little bit less, especially from places like Barnes & Noble. And don't get me wrong, I love Barnes & Noble. I would go spend hours in there myself. But the prices are so much higher.
Oh my goodness.
And you can find books for way cheaper at places like Target or Amazon.
Or half-price books. Buy used. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Oh my gosh. Poster child over here. But yeah, I just think that it's getting harder and harder to sell the physical copies of your books. And you can't charge quite as much for the e-read as you can for a physical book because it's just a quick download to a tablet or a Kindle or a Nook, whatever you may have. And so I don't know. I'm curious to talk to some of our authors down the road as we keep going because we have a few that are self-published that'll be joining us on this podcast. And so it'll be interesting to hear from them and how they've made it work for them and what they've looked for in being self-published.
And what their overall reader count is in regards to their book or if they know.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, we have our first featured author and featured book. And Amber, I'm going to let you go ahead and take the spotlight here.
Our first featured book is Going Ghost by Dina Marie. And I will read the back of it. I have read this book. It is very great. I'll give my thoughts at the very end. A chance to escape, a haunting surprise, dragged into a homicide by the spooky victim. Can a reluctant sleuth solve the case and set up a fresh start? Clara Kelly only wants to be free, fleeing her abusive husband and holing up in his empty, historic Salem, Massachusetts house. She's shocked to find it already occupied by the ghosts of a sad-eyed Union soldier and a cat. And just as the 32-year-old fugitive accepts that the supernatural is real, a deadly car accident out front brings the phantom of the recently deceased to her front door, claiming he's been murdered. Afraid every moment she lingers will bring more trouble, she tries to ignore his pleas, but after the desperate spirit agrees to aid a puppy in peril in exchange for her help, Clara relents to playing sleuth while looking over her shoulder for the slime who made her marriage a living hell. Can she find purpose in parting the veil of possibilities?
I don't know, can she?
All right, my thoughts on the book. Very creative niche. Absolutely loved it. If you like shows like The Ghost Whisperer, which aired from 2005 to 2010, showing my millennial era, or Ghosts, which is currently airing. It started in 2021 and it is still on air. Then you will absolutely love and adore this book because it is real people dealing with paranormal things. And it is comical. Some of these things.
Funny.
Oh, there's some funny parts. And I think one of my favorite parts right in the beginning is she's like, did I really just see that ghost? And then she like looks down and sees the footprints in the dusty old house. And she's like, oh, that was real.
Okay, do you feel like this is more of a thriller or a mystery?
Oh, definitely mystery.
Okay.
Definitely a mystery. And comedy along with that, I will say. Because, yeah, I absolutely loved it. And then also the beginning part was very much, if you've read Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks, it's very much kind of like the intro to that where like she's running from the abuse.
Of her past.
Of her past and kind of like dealing with the trauma of that and then starting her new life in an abandoned house.
Oh my gosh, yes, very similar.
Very Safe Haven. So,
yeah.
But it's a relatively quick read. There's only 28, 29 chapters, I believe, and like 221 pages. So I read it in a good solid like 3.5, 4 hours.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but Amber's special. Not everyone reads as fast as she does. But that does seem like a quick read, and I'm very excited to read it myself. I haven't gotten the chance to yet, so I was really excited to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, absolutely. And then thank you also to Dina Marie for sending us this copy. It goes, Amber, wishing you a spooktacular podcast launch, Dina, which is also very, very sweet of her. So thank you, Dina.
So awesome. If you guys are interested in checking out Dina's book, we will have a link in our show notes today that you can follow and go support her. All right. We are getting toward the end of this podcast here. Yes. And so we want to have you guys join the conversation. We would love for you to drop in the comments your favorite new authors, recent reads, or personal writing experiences on social media. And we have a special question that we want to drop each episode to kind of get the conversation flowing. So our question this time that we would love to have in our comments is, what book didn't get the breakout that it deserves? And I'm going to drop mine in the comments later because I need to meditate on this one a little bit more. But do you have any thoughts right now, Amber?
Mine will be in the comments.
Okay. We're going to meditate on that one, and then we will join you guys in the comments with the book we think missed its breakout.
Yeah.
All right. So, Amber, a little sneak peek into what's coming up on our next episode in 2 weeks.
Woohoo.
So excited about this one. So go ahead and take it away. Tell them what we'll be doing.
Next time, we will be discussing the book, The Non-Magical Declan Moore by Nathan Taylor, and we will be bringing him onto the podcast as well to be able to interview him for his wonderful book. And I'm so excited. It was one of the first books that I ARC read for.
Yeah. This is the book that Amber used to get me on board for this entire podcast. I adored this book, so I'm very excited to talk about it as well.
Absolutely. And then I also reached out to Nathan after I was like, hey, Shaylee, we should start this podcast. And I reached out to Nathan and was like, hey, would you like to be our guinea pig for the podcast? And he was like, absolutely. So he's been very patient with quite literally everything as well. So thank you in advance, Nathan.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end. We want to encourage everyone to subscribe and leave a review. Share the podcast with fellow book lovers and help the community grow. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Shaylee.
And I'm Amber.
And follow us at Two Bound Books on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube. And authors for you, if you are interested in submitting your book to be featured on our podcast, you can head to twoboundbooks.com and fill out the inquiry form. Bye, everyone.
Bye.